So good morning and welcome. My name is Reverend Dr. Ron Fox, and welcome to this Sunday service for the Center for Spiritual Living, Space Coast. If your phone is on now, this would be a good time to look and turn it off. And I know there's nobody here that's never been to a Center for Spiritual Living, but if there's anybody that's watching this week, if you've never been, we believe there's one God, many paths to that God, and we're here to love, honor, and support you, no matter what your divine path is. And the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast is a safe haven for people of all beliefs and lifestyles, whoever you are and wherever you find yourself on your journey of faith, you're welcome here. And I want to add something today. We had last Friday night a concert by Eddie Watkins Jr., and he said something so great and much shorter than what I just said that makes the same point. He said, black or white, straight or gay, Christian, Buddhist, or Jew, this door is open for you. Our practitioner and reader today is Ginny Panic. And just a couple of announcements. We're doing our book group ongoing on Tuesdays at 2. We're doing the book Tuesdays with Maury, although we're not going to meet this Tuesday. I forgot. We're taking a Tuesday off, but we'll be back the following Tuesday. And today is the third Sunday of the month, so it's Unexpected Income Sunday, and we'll be doing that in a little bit. And with that, we'll do another song.
Power of now is always present, nowhere to be than where you are. The power of now flows oh so gracefully. The power of now is always perfect, nothing to be than who you are. The power of now flows oh so easily. Be willing to let go of everything you think you need to know. Oh, be strong enough to let go of everything you think you need to control. For everything goes away. Let everything wash away. The power of now. The power of now is ever flowing, connecting the soul to the one. The power of now unfolds so peacefully. Be willing to let go of every of everything you think you need to control. For everything goes away. Let everything wash away. The power of now. The power of now. The power of now. Power of now.
So let us take this moment to relax into this spacious now. Let us just take a breath. Take a breath in, hold it for a second, and let it go. Hold it for a second and let it go. So let us know together that there is truly only one intelligence, one source, one power, one all that is. Let us make no mistake and know that that which is unseen is far greater than that which is seen, because that which is unseen creates all that is seen. It creates each one. It creates us and gives to us the seeds of truth, of love, of clarity, of understanding. It gives to us all that we need. Everything is available in this now moment. We stay focused in the now moment and call forth by the power of our word, the truth of who we are. And the truth of who we are in the mind of God is perfect, whole, and complete. Perfect, whole, and complete. That which we are is perfect, whole, and complete. And to live in that completion, that perfection, that wholeness is to bring forth the presence of God. Not only do we bring forth the presence of God, but the energy from that bringing forth goes out and welcomes us wherever we go. All is God and all is good. And I am grateful for this understanding. I am grateful for this goodness that pours forth from me, that pours forth from each one, because I see the presence of God in each one. I see, we see, you see the presence of God everywhere that we look. And so I'm grateful this morning to be here. I'm grateful for Dr. Reverend Ron Fox and his talk that he will give this morning that will bring forth a truth that will radiate through us and move us forward in a greater way. And I'm grateful for the Center for Spiritual Living, the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast. I'm grateful for all centers for spiritual living, for all people who have congregated this morning to worship God. I'm grateful for anyone out there on Zoom or watches us through the week, knowing that they hear these messages. They hear these messages each week that Dr. Reverend Ron speaks, and they move forward in a greater way to see the face of God in each one. There is no doubt in my mind that this is true. And so I release this treatment into the great I am that always says yes. And please say with me, and so it is. My reading this morning is from The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, who founded the Centers for Spiritual Living. This is on page 671. It's called The Secret Way. There is a secret way of the soul, which all may know. It is the way of peace. It is the way of love. The secret way leads into places of joy and into the house of good. It is the way of the Spirit, and all may enter who will. Today, I tread the secret way of good, the path of peace. And I enter into the secret place of the Most High, because the secret place of the Most High is within me. And so it is.
So good morning again. So I have a cryptic title today. It's just titled Resting. And I want to begin with a fable. I think I've told this before a few years ago, but it's about a king who in his kingdom says that he's going to give a prize to the painter that could paint the best picture depicting peace. And he comes down to two finalists. And the first one is a picture of a beautiful lake that's surrounded by mountains. And the lake is so calm and peaceful that you can see the mountains like a mirror shining in the lake. And the sky is blue and there's white fluffy clouds. And when people see it, they go, that's peace. The second one also has mountains, but these mountains are really rough and bare, and the sky overhead is dark and foreboding. In the picture, it's raining and there's lightning, and there's a waterfall rushing down from the mountain. And when the king looks at that picture, he notices that behind the waterfall, there's a rock in the mountain, and the rock has a tiny crack. And out of that crack is a bush that's growing. And on the bush is a mother bird sitting in her nest. And when you look at this picture, despite the water coming down and everything else, the mother bird is sitting on her nest in perfect peace. That's the one that the king chose. And the point behind it is that peace is an inside job. No matter what's going on outside, if we do our spiritual work, we can be at peace inside. And just after I put that down, I remembered that the late Thich Nhat Hanh wrote that when the people were leaving, remember during the Vietnam War, when the people were leaving in boats and the boats were packed and the water was rough, if the people in the boat panicked, the boat invariably sank. If there was one person on the boat that didn't panic and that kept him or herself absolutely centered, that boat didn't sink. One person made a difference. So in Hebrew, the word Sabbath means rest, and I'm going to talk about that again later. But you don't need me to tell you that we live in a really fast-paced world, and we're getting inundated with all kinds of information of every type. And what we need to do is take time to rest, relax, and refresh in all of this. And Cynthia James, a good friend, Reverend Cynthia James, she refers to something called radical self-care. And radical self-care means taking care of your own needs first, not out of selfishness, but out of the fact when you do that, there's more time to be compassionate and to be available for other people. Because if you don't feel that your own needs are being met, it's really difficult to be there for somebody else. Ernest Holmes, who Ginny just read from, Ernest Holmes wrote, "In the midst of confusion, there is a place of peace. In the midst of sorrow, the joy of life persists." And that doesn't just come to us. We need to make a place for it. We need to make a place for that joy and peace, to seek it, to make ourselves, give ourselves the time to be available to us. You know, there's all kinds of ideas of what the greatest fear is, you know, public speaking. I told you last week, I was in a group where somebody said it was public singing. You know, it's not being out alone, afraid in the dark. For a lot of people, the greatest fear is they don't have any vision. They don't have a vision of what their life is. Because a lot of people don't take the time to do the reflection. And without the quiet time, life can seem empty and meaningless. And I actually hadn't intended to speak on this, but Becky and I are doing that. We did that on Saturday, and we're going to make time again tomorrow, because 4 years ago, we made a life plan, and now it's 4 years, and we need to do it again to look at the vision. What do we want our life to be? And we couldn't figure out why we did a 4-year plan. So we're going to do a 5-year plan this time. But Wayne Muller is an author, and I'm going to talk about, again, more about him later. But he had a friend that had a serious illness. And his friend told him that he had a mixture of sadness and relief, because he said, "Now I can rest." And isn't that sad that you need to be sick to think you could take time to rest? You know, we don't break any laws when we take time to invest in our own mental and emotional health. Eckhart Tolle wrote, "When you lose touch with inner stillness, you lose touch with yourself." So Eric Butterworth, who I always say is one of my favorite ministers, a unity minister, he said, when you get still enough, we can experience God saying to us, "You are my beloved child. You are loved. You are whole. You are free." That the activity of God is always seeking to bless us and to heal us and to fill us with good. And we need to get ourselves out of the way, because when we do, the divine flow does its perfect work. And Meister Eckhart, again, put it really simply. He just said, "Let God be God in you." Cherie Carter Scott talks about this, and she talks about it. She uses a different word. She talks about surrender. Okay, and I know for a lot of us, especially guys, surrender is like a curse word. But you know, it's too passive and too weak. But it really isn't. And what she says, that when we surrender, we go with the flow of life rather than struggling against it. And she said the key to peace is surrendering to what is, rather than trying to create what we think it should be. And she says it doesn't mean being passive. It simply means surrendering to what you can't control in the first place. Okay, if you can't control it, why fight it? And she gives, for me, an example I absolutely know, and I'll bet almost everybody that is listening to this or will listen to it knows. She was typing a manuscript on her computer, okay? And all of a sudden, the screen went blank and she lost 12 pages of the manuscript. I know most of us have had that. I know I have had it more than once. And she said that she had two choices. She could really get upset about it, or she could surrender and just start over. And this is the point. She said, either way, the reality remained the same. Okay. So either way, she could bitch and moan and get really upset. And the fact was 12 pages were gone. And what was she going to do about it? And so what did she do? She said she got up, she took a walk outside, cleared her head, and came back and started over again, you know? So I want to read something also from Ernest Holmes. And he wrote, "We often wonder if peace really exists anywhere. In a world distraught with so much confusion and chaos, we deeply need an inner abiding sense of calm and tranquility. Peace of mind really is what the world is searching after, because without it, we only have a sense of insecurity and loneliness. Without peace, deep and abiding, there can be no happiness nor contentment, no sense of security, no confidence. And yet Jesus said, 'My peace I give unto you.' And the apostles said, 'The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus.' And Holmes says, this means that in such degree as we attain peace, Christ, or the anointed of heaven, the true and divine sonship, makes itself known to us. For he is not met through confusion," meaning spirit is not met through confusion, but only when the mind is tranquil, like an unruffled body of water, reflects the divine image of peace and perfection. So Ernest Holmes, again, is telling us, you know, when we're going nuts and, you know, upset and everything, that's not when we get in touch with God, but when we're calm about it, when we're having that inner peace, no matter what's going on outside, that's when we are able to touch spirit. So Jack Kornfield, who is also another one of my favorite writers and teachers, and is a Buddhist teacher. And he said, you know, when people are coming to the end of life, when they're on their deathbed, most of them aren't going to say, I wonder how much money I have in the bank, or how many books did I write? Or Mihai, one of the people that comes to our book group, said last week that he heard most people at the end of life on their deathbed don't say, oh gosh, I wish I could have had more time at work. Okay, that's not what happens. He said, Cornfield said, people ask, did I love well? Did I live fully? Did I learn to let go? And he gives an example of what he's talking about. He was called and asked to go visit somebody in the hospital. The person that he was visiting was in his late 30s and was really rich. He was a very successful person in business, and he had all of the toys, you know, a yacht, a fancy car, everything, big house. And one day he blacked out behind the wheel of his car. They take him to the hospital and they find out he's got a tumor on his brain. And the doctors tell him, listen to this, the doctors tell him, we need to operate. However, the tumor is in your speech comprehension center. So there's a chance after the surgery, you won't be able to speak, read, write, or comprehend any language. If you don't get the surgery, you have about 6 weeks to live. We want to operate in the morning, so think about it and let us know. That's the situation that Jack Kornfield walked into. And he said, this young fellow, what he wanted to talk about was the deep stuff of life, you know, birth and death, the meaning of life. And then at some point he said, you know, I don't even want to talk anymore. But he also said, Jack also said that everything seemed precious to him. He mentioned just taking a sip of water was precious to him. A pigeon flew on the windowsill outside, and that was precious. Everything was meaningful to him. And he decided the next day, he told the doctors he wanted the operation, and it was a success. And Cornfield said it changed when he left the hospital, his entire life changed. He still had his business, but he spent more time with his family. He became a counselor for people with cancer and fatal illnesses. He spent a lot of time in nature, and he spent a lot of time just loving the people that he was with. You know, what that did, it found him a place of peace and what was really important in life. So I mentioned to you that we're reading the book on Tuesdays with Maury, and I want to read you a quote that Maury is telling the young man who's coming to visit him every week. Maury said, "So many people walk around with a meaningless life. They seem half asleep. Even when they're busy doing things they think are important. This is because they're chasing the wrong things. The way you get meaning into your life is to devote to loving others, devote yourself to your community around you, and devote yourself to creating something that gives you purpose and meaning." And my point here is, in order to devote yourself to something that gives you purpose and meaning, you have to take time to go into the silence, to go into peace, to find out what that is. I talked about Wayne Muller before, and he said in one, he's written one book titled Sabbath, and another one, Being, Having, and Doing Enough, something like that. And in one of the books, he said, because we're so busy, we've lost the rhythm between work and rest. And when we set the time to be still, that's when we can connect with our inner wisdom. And this time of being still, he calls it Sabbath time. And I mentioned what Sabbath meant. That's what he calls it. And he says it's a time to be renewed and refreshed. And there are lots of ways you can do that. You know, a walk in nature, walk around the block. I don't know, meditating, listening to music, lighting candles. He wrote in the book, making love, whatever, you know, kind of gets you out of your every day. So I want to give you 4 or 5 examples. So again, the late Thich Nhat Hanh lived in Paris, and where he lived, they called Plum Village. And one of the practices that he had was, during the course of the day, he would periodically ring what they called the mindfulness bell. When he rang that bell, everybody knew to stop whatever they were doing, be right where they are, take 3 mindful breaths, and then go on with the rest of their day, whatever they were doing. And it's something, you know, that any one of us could do. You know, some author I read said, you know, you can say to yourself, every time I hear a telephone ring, I'm gonna do that. For me, I forgot to bring it with me. I was really bummed. I have a bracelet at home. It's the battery is dead now, so I haven't worn it in a while, but it's called a Meaning to Pause bracelet. I was doing a panel of new ministers, and in the middle of the panel, something went bzzz, and we all stopped and said, what? Because it was the lady we were paneling. And we said, what is that? And she took off this bracelet. And what it is, you can set it for 90 minutes or 60 minutes, and it will automatically go off. I had mine set for 90. And so during the course of I used to wear it all the time. And during the course of my day, whenever that bracelet went off, I would stop whatever I was doing, close my eyes, and do some kind of gratitude. Thank you, God. Thank you, thank you. And then go back on to what I was doing. Somebody else that I read this week, they had something they called the golden pause. And what it was, they had been to a workshop, and the workshop, she said there were hundreds of people there, and they would ring a bell too, like Thich Nhat Hanh, and that was the golden pause. Everybody in the workshop had to stop whatever they were doing and just close their eyes and be still. And this lady related a story about one of the other men that was in the group with her, and they would talk about it. And he was telling her one day he got really upset because his golden pause works really well when you're nervous or angry. To give you an idea how angry he was, he thought he was actually going to have a fist fight with somebody. I mean, that's angry, right? And instead of doing it, he went into the golden pause for about 5 minutes, just closed his eyes, and he thought to himself everything he had to be grateful for. And after the 5 minutes, he came out of it and he was mentally in a different place. And so it didn't happen, obviously, hopefully. You know, another, I want to talk about a couple of other things. And one, I've talked about this a lot, and I cannot tell you how well it's worked in my life. I have it taped to my computer, but I have it memorized by now. And it's something from Ernest Holmes in the book, This Thing Called You. And when you're nervous, when you're upset, if you just stop and close your eyes and say, I am submerged in peace. I am surrounded by peace. I am immersed in peace. There is nothing but peace. Peace, deep, dark, deep, calm, undisturbed. I'll do it one more time. I am submerged in peace. I am surrounded by peace. I am immersed in peace. Peace. There is nothing but peace. Peace, deep, calm, undisturbed. I can't tell you how many times I have used that it made a huge difference. I just used it again this week. I had a doctor's appointment and I was nervous about going because I thought he was going to want me to take a test that I didn't particularly want to take. Turned out he didn't ask me to do it. But so before we left, I took my blood pressure and it was kind of high. Driving to the doctor, I kept doing this to myself. And when I got to the doctor, my blood pressure was 40 points lower than when I took it at home, which is really unusual because for most people, their blood pressure is higher in the doctor's office. So, I mean, it really works. Patrice and Edgar, who are on Zoom, Patrice said I could use this. They have a Sabbath practice where every Friday they walk on the beach. And Becky and I've shared this before, but I'm going to share it again. When we were in California, we had a Sabbath practice that we just decided this weekend we're going to start again in 2023. I don't know why we stopped it. It was great. And this is what we did. And it was because we read that book by Wayne Muller about Sabbath. Every Friday night at 5 o'clock, because we both worked, at 5 o'clock, computer got turned off, TV got turned off, telephone got turned off, and we would go and we would sit and we would meditate together. And then we would have some kind of meal, maybe a bottle of wine, and we would just be together, maybe make love, maybe not, you know, whatever we would do. And then Saturday, all day, no computer, no phone, no TV. The one rule about that, when the phone rang, since we were both practitioners and a minister, we would let the phone ring, and if we got a voicemail, we could listen in case it was an emergency and one of us was needed. And then on Saturday, we had a list of things that we wanted to do only together. And we tried to remember all of the things the other day for here, but we went to the Yogananda's place in California. It's this gorgeous place. And we would sit and meditate and go from one place to another and have a meal. We went to the Holocaust Museum. We went to the Japanese American Museum, just stuff to be together. And then, or a dumb thing that we did, I don't know why we did this. We went to one of the really upscale malls in LA and went into every single store. I don't know why we did that, what it meant. We still laugh about it. And then the other thing, we were living, as I said, in Southern California. Becky came to me and said, we need to make one change in our Friday night Sabbath. And I said, what? She said, if the Lakers were on TV, it's okay to watch the Laker game. So, but we're about to start it again. It was just such a great practice of being quiet, being centered, and then just focusing on Saturday on one another. It really puts you in a different place. So I'm gonna close with that and just close with something from Lao Tzu, who said, "Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing missing, the whole world belongs to you." Thank you for being here this morning.
Now stop the recording, please.